we are here with Zach. We were at the Tampa Wave, which is an incubator in Tampa, Florida. Zach, why don't you tell us a little about who you are and what you do?
So my name is Zachary Sens, and my company is Monikl. Monikl is like a dating website for finding a job. Cool. You just sign up once, make a profile, answer a few questions, and then we actually match you to the right employer for you based on your skills, your personality, and your workplace preferences.
Wow. So are you a programmer? You've done a lot of the back end work with this?
Yeah, so we're fully virtual and automated.
Wow.
So basically, like I said, it's kind of like a dating website. You have employers and job seekers sign up.
Okay.
And then it just walks you through all the steps. You would make a profile, upload your resume, and then you'd answer the questions, and then you're good to go.
Okay. And how long have you been doing this?
Been working on it for around 2 years as a concept, but we just launched in March.
Okay. And what's it like to work with an incubator here with everyone kind of surrounding you?
It's really great. I mean, like before this, we weren't really part of the startup culture in Tampa, but they do a really good job of, for one, integrating you into that culture, but also introducing you to a lot of people that face the same struggles that you do.
Okay. And so you weren't in Tampa Bay before this? Or
No, and I've been in Tampa for around 4 years now.
4 years now? All right.
Yeah, so but there's a very big disconnect between like the startup culture and what everyone else is doing, and until you actually get your foot in the door with that startup culture, you don't really know what's there practically.
Okay. And for the people wondering, myself as well, what is kind of the startup culture and then the other part as well?
There's a lot of basically old school businesses here, so, and obviously I like Outback Steakhouse, they started here, and that's like your typical what starts in Tampa type of mindset, but that's not actually the case. We're actually a really growing tech hub here.
Okay.
And we've got a really good startup community. We've got a startup week. We've got the startup bus here. We've got Tampa Bay Wave, obviously, and there's just a lot of people in this community that are trying to make this an actual tech hub.
Okay. And so can you tell us a little about yourself as well and your background and how you got into starting this company?
So my background is actually in staffing, so it fits for that. I'm from South Florida originally, the Boca Raton, Fort Lauderdale area. And I came up here for college, and I just fell in love with the area, so I decided to stay.
Okay.
It's a beautiful city.
Oh, yeah.
It's really nice here.
I've been to Florida before, but never like Tampa. So
I mean, really cool. Florida is very weird because, like one of the expressions I've heard: the farther north you are, the farther south you are.
Really?
Then as you go south, you're really going more north until Miami, which then you're in Cuba, basically.
Yeah. So
I mean,
more north you go.
Yeah, it's. I don't know how true some of that is, but in general, it's a very mixed area.
Yeah. And Florida's just big, so it's kind of its own place. So like the more north you go, the more south you go in the country, I guess. And so being in the tech industry as well and creating this, it's an app?
It's an app for Android and iPhone, as well as a web-based application.
Okay, so you got it all covered.
Yeah, we do.
All right. What have been some of the difficulties you faced with starting this and getting it off the ground?
It really depends on what point in time. Originally, when we were just going through the concept, we had to make the prototype and then figure out exactly what we wanted to do. Then we raised some early friends and family capital to build the version 1 of the product. And that in itself, that's at least 6 months. For us, it was like 6 to 8 months of building it. And then you have to actually go and change mindset, do marketing, you've got to do sales. So, I mean, there's a lot of different stages, and there's different challenges in each stage.
Okay. So, yeah, I think that's something we haven't really thought of yet is we ask the question, what's a difficulty, and then they give us one. But there's difficulties in each stage.
There really are,
the startup, when you were building it, there was difficulties there. Then when you went to the marketing, you had to switch, which is a trouble in itself, is switching that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
So just each stage has its own. Can you give like one or two for each stage maybe? Or
So, for development purpose, or not development, for like the early prototype phase, you really have to, for one, put yourself in your customer's shoes. So you want to be able to figure out what their actual problems are and how your product is going to address it, and that's your value proposition.
Yeah.
So a good part of that is actually going and talking to the customer, because you've got to do that, and then taking their feedback and putting it into the product. But don't take it, if one person says it, don't just take that one person's word for it. You've got to actually get enough people that say the same thing for it to mean anything. Then after you design the prototype, then it really depends on your situation, but you might or might not need some funding to build your version 1 MVP. we did need some funding,
Okay.
and then we basically went out to a few other developers. We brought them on board, and from there we just made our MVP and started launching it.
Okay.
But I mean, something that's really important to recognize. It's not a one-stage thing.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen overnight.
Absolutely.
And this is 2 years in progress, and we're really just getting started. Since March, we've got around 2,000 people on our platform now,
Wow.
and around 20 companies, and that's really good.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, there's a whole lot of back-end work that led up to that moment of even launching.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. And so, you're different than another company because your customer is kind of it's person signing up that wants a job, and then it's also
yeah, so
companies
we are
that want a
double-sided.
job. So what's it like going out and trying to capture both of those markets, going to
And
businesses?
it's two very different sales strategies.
Mhm.
For companies right now, we've been doing more direct sales.
Mhm.
So it could be a lot of cold calling, could be actually going in person, demoing the product. Eventually, once we have enough job seekers that just attract the companies, that won't be necessary, but for now it is.
Okay.
And that's another thing. It depends on what stage of your company you're in on how you do sales. When you're first starting out, it is fine to do things that don't scale just to get momentum started. And then for job seeker acquisition, we're doing a lot of conventional marketing such as social media, SEM, SEO.
Okay.
We're also doing email blasting, and it's just a medley of things, and you got to get people in the door and see what works for you.
Okay. And going back to what you said previously, what's it like? Take us through the process of getting funding and going out and kind of pitching your idea and your company.
Well, for us with the friends and family funding, it was basically going to your family and going to your family friends
Yeah.
and giving them basically the idea of what the concept is, showing them the prototype, showing them that you did your homework and you actually know that this is a real concept versus like a half-baked one.
Yeah.
It's really just that for friends and family. After that is where it gets more complicated.
Okay.
We're applying for the seed fund here at the Tampa Bay Wave,
Okay.
and that is a lot of due diligence basically. So you've got to have all your ducks in a row, and you've got to be able to show that you're not going to take their money and then collapse the next day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then that's for seed funding. For Series A, B, and C, I've obviously not done that yet, but from what I've heard, it's even harder.
Okay. So you're revving up to get there.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And then also we like to ask, what is one piece of advice that you would give to an entrepreneur just starting up?
Just one is kind of hard, honestly, but
You can give two if you want.
for one, data-driven marketing and decision-making, that is really important.
Okay.
So Google Analytics, Facebook Pixel, all of those, they make it pretty easy for your web-based applications, but it's really good to do trial and error, A/B testing, figure out what works, and then double down on that. But if you don't know your data, you're not going to be able to do that.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, like I was saying before, it's not going to be overnight. You've got to really be motivated, and probably motivated by more than just money, to really lock on to what your goal is and then figure out how to get there.
And so you got us going here. We are two marketing analytics students.
Mhm.
So we're interested in what you have to say about that. Are you into that kind of the data-driven decision making? And can you tell us a little about what you do? And
I can tell you a little bit about it, but
Okay.
in general, like for Facebook, for example, say we're doing blogs or some other form of Facebook advertising, you want to have the tracking in place to know if it worked and if it didn't work, and then you can basically see your conversions, you can see how many people actually clicked on it and have your click-through rate.
Yep.
And then it's really about spending your money wisely. So if you have an ad that outperformed all of the other ones by 20%, let's say, then you've got to focus on why that ad did that.
Mhm.
If you could identify that and replicate it, you've got a much better sales model,
Absolutely.
or marketing anyways.
Okay. Yeah, we like that because we're into that and finding better ways to do what you're doing through data.
Of course.
And do you have any questions if you want as well?
So yeah, let's do the favorite book / movie question.
Okay. We
Oh,
always
boy.
like this. So are you a big reader or movie watcher? Or both?
Pretty much both.
Okay.
Usually, if I'm reading or going to the movies, actually, it's more to like distract myself.
Okay.
So I'm a big fantasy reader, or like all the like Marvel movies, stuff
Okay.
like that. Favorite book, actually an old one, Ender's Game. That was really
Okay.
good.
I think I've seen that movie actually.
Yeah, the movie was okay.
Yeah, it's never as good.
Yeah.
No, it's never as good.
So it's probably favorite book, and then movie. Probably one of the older James Bond movies.
Okay. Quality guy. Quality guy. And then we're just gonna do like a last thing here.
Let's do.
Actually, we have probably a few
Yeah,
more
I'm
questions,
sorry.
a few more
Okay.
questions.
All right, let's do the process for decision making.
Yeah,
Question.
I like that one as well. So we're always interested in how you go through making a decision. What is that process that you go through? And if you could take us through that. So
That really kind of depends on the decision.
Okay.
So my partner Ken, he is the CTO of the company.
Okay.
He's older than I am. He's got around 12 years experience in enterprise software development.
Okay.
So for anything software, he's basically in charge of that,
Okay.
and I'm in charge of all of the business side of things. And we kind of like that duality of it, where one person isn't making decisions for everything. But as far as actually like the decision making process, for marketing, it's going to be the data-driven decision making. For strategically placing where the business is going to go, it could be a combination of the data. It could be a combination of gut instinct. It could be a combination of what we've talked to people about. It's really just a number of different things, and I don't really think there's one like I don't know what the word for it would be, but like one way to do it.
Yeah.
If you've got a different business in mind, it might be a completely different way of making decisions.
Okay. And we're also interested in, you just spoke of Ken. We have a lot of people that are interested in like where to find someone that can complement their style. They're good at business like you are, but they're also looking for someone technical as well.
Yeah.
How did you go out and find Ken, or how did he find you?
So I met Ken a few years ago through a mutual friend, and I got lucky with that. Basically, we just hit it off, and then when I had the idea, I went to him, and we both, to give you some backstory, he was actually looking to hire some developers at the time, and he went on Career Builder, and he put up a posting for, I think it was actually like some sort of mid-level developer, Java or something like that, and basically he got a whole bunch of applicants, like entire mailbox full of people that were not qualified. And he was really fed up with that. And he doesn't really like recruiters that much either, because they do the same thing. They just want to get paid. So it pretty much was a good set of circumstances that led to us working together on this project. And it really works for us.
Okay.
In the Tampa Bay area, I'd say the majority of the developers actually are working in a cubicle somewhere. They're not in, and I'm sure there are some in college.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for a potential partner, I would actually look towards the tech companies here and see if you could find someone who's working there just bored in their desk while they want to be working on something new and exciting.
Okay. So go out to the tech companies and see if you can find someone that's also passionate and shares the same goal.
That's really here in Tampa, though. For some other area, it might be completely different.
Okay. Definitely.
Great. So do you want to do the leadership style, company culture question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're also always interested in how you lead your team in that philosophy that you go through. Are you like a team oriented person? Do you like to can you just speak a little about your leadership philosophy?
In general, I'm a fan of a leader is out in front. So lead by doing. Generally, if you're the hardest worker there, everyone's going to fall in line behind you, type of thing. And it's the same thing for both me and Ken. I'd say that realistically, we're the two hardest workers. Ken has a full-time job right now, and then he goes home and he works on this every night. He works on the weekends. I work on this around 90 hours a week. And then it's just, everyone kind of pitches in because they see that you're so passionate and motivated to get it done.
Absolutely.
Why wouldn't they be?
And then, so we're interested, or we'd like to ask, as an entrepreneur, we see that you work a lot of hours, and some people get confused when you do that. When you're an entrepreneur, you work less hours, but a lot of times you work more.
There's an expression that's been floating around. I think it's entrepreneurs will work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40. Yeah, and I think that's fairly accurate.
Absolutely.
When you're starting up and when you're at the stage that we are, I'm lucky enough that I have enough savings to work full-time without getting paid for a while.
Okay.
Obviously, not everyone is in that position.
Definitely.
In general, if you say have a full-time job, you really have to be passionate about what you're doing to then go home from that full-time job, work at night, work on the weekends, until you get to the point where you actually can support yourself, and then you eventually could support someone else and bring on more of a team.
Absolutely. And another question is, since you work, again, 80 hours or 90 hours, what's it like balancing that schedule with also just life in general? Like how do you do it?
I don't know how much balance there really is at the end of the day. I mean, sometimes you just have to take a little bit of time off and do something for yourself. I've got a friend who has a boat club. Occasionally I go boating with him.
Okay.
And it's good to have some way to relieve stress, but at the same time, if things are really heating up at work and you've got to put in extra hours, it's just, you've got to do it.
Absolutely.
No, and I've got some friends I've been meaning to see for quite a while now, and
Really?
haven't seen them in a while.
Yeah.
So it's a balancing act, but to a certain extent, if you are doing this, work has to be the most important thing.
Absolutely. So when your plate's full, you got to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have the time to wind down a little bit, you can go and
I
find
mean,
some.
there's some weeks where I'll work until 4 a.m., go to sleep, and get up at 8 a.m. and start again. But there's occasionally a week where I'm working 40 hours instead of the 80 or 90, and then I could do something else. So it really does fluctuate, at least in the early stages. I have a feeling as we get further along, it's probably going to fluctuate less.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm not really the best person for work-life balance. I tend to be a workaholic. So.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Everyone's got their own style. It sounds like you're getting done, so I mean, it's not a bad thing.
So the website is www.monikl.com, Monikl, and we have a video up there. We've got a whole bunch of information for employers and job seekers. Again, it is like a dating website for finding a job. It takes maybe 15 minutes to sign up, and then you're good. You'll be matched to jobs, and you'll be alerted by email.
Awesome. So we want to thank you, Zach, for letting us interview you and tell your story. It's really interesting. We're definitely looking for a job at some point as well in our life, so we'll hop onto your thing, and we'll definitely use that to find a job. So thank you very much, and
Perfect.
Good luck.